Hello again to Legal Aspects of the Small Business, BA 121. I'm Sarah Holtzclaw, your instructor, and we're going to talk about build or buy today. I'm going to show you our disclaimer again. The fact that I am not pretending to be a doctor, lawyer, or judge, and that if you have any questions whatsoever, that you should first obtain professional counsel. Today we're going to talk about your idea and whether or not you want to build and develop your own idea, or if you want to buy, if you want to invest in a franchise business, or if you want to buy an existing business that's already in business or is starting to close or has closed and still is for sale. We're going to talk about the pros and the cons of each of those. So let's start with developing your own idea. So this would be the pros and the cons, and you'll see this consistently in this particular section. The pros of developing your idea is that you are really not hampered by anything. You are developing, you have no perceptions, you get to start from scratch. You get to choose the name, you get to choose your logo, what it looks like, you get to choose where it is. You get to build your own relationships and start with new markets. Starting a small business on your own actually is also less money and doesn't cost as much, depending on the business actually. So if you're looking at restaurants or something that takes a lot of equipment, then that's the case. But a lot of small businesses start in garages, and that is a very inexpensive way to start, or in your office or in your bedroom and that sort of thing. Very inexpensive way to start your own business. So the cons are that you don't have a customer base, right? So you have no customer perceptions, and you get to mold those customer perceptions, but one of those cons is that you actually have to build that customer perception, and you have to build the customer base. And when you're developing your own idea, it's never been done before, there is a lot more risk to it than having something that's existing already. When you don't have a track record, it's sometimes harder to find financing and harder to find the suppliers that you think you need, what you need, and who to trust and that sort of thing. So all of the great things of starting your own idea and developing that idea up from its infancy does come with a little bit more risk. So then the opportunity is to franchise, to buy into a franchise. A franchise is a business that exists where a seller or a corporate office, a company, sells you the right to sells you the right to sell their products. So let's just talk about Subway or 7-Eleven. They give you buy into their opportunities. You buy into to have the right to use their name and their logo and their equipment and their recipes, and you pay for it. But there's pros and cons to that. There's a couple different people that you need to know in this relationship. One is the franchisee and one is the franchisor. As you buy into it, you are the franchisee. You are the person who is using their already existing system. The franchisor is that company who grants you the right to use the system. Supercuts, for example, is the franchisor. McDonald's is the franchisor. Days Inn, 7-Eleven, they are in their corporate office are the franchisor, and you as the business owner are the franchisee. This in particular, this graph kind of shows you, it's a few years old obviously, but it shows you how things move up and down and what the most popular and fastest growing franchises in these 4 years were. So you can see kind of Subway goes up and down, kind of stays. It's obviously in the top 10. So is McDonald's are always in the top 10. Hampton Hotels is a good solid franchise name. You'll see Days Inn is in there. Dunkin' Donuts is coming up. So you can see that they are nice, strong brands that are growing. What's the pros and the cons of buying into a franchise? When you buy into a franchise, say Subway, you are buying into a recognized name, recognized trademarks that they spend a lot of money to develop. And the more recognized the name, and McDonald's can cost a lot of money to buy into because you're buying into that name. You're buying into a proven system of operations. They know just exactly how to bake their bread. They know they know they have a menu already. They know what sells, what doesn't sell. They know how. They know the amount of lettuce to put on a sandwich to make it profitable for you. So they have a proven operational system and they can train you on that. So they have training processes and they'll take you into their corporate offices and they'll train you. They've got marketing and they've got district support systems that will help you, that come and make sure that you're doing it the right way to keep their brand and their recipes and their reputation up. They also have sometimes some financing opportunities. And one of the greatest things about franchises is that you're buying into something that already exists, right? You're buying into something that has a lot of strength behind it. It could be, some of the smaller chains, Anytime Fitness and that sort of thing, but there are people like you, other franchisees, that are going through the same thing that you can learn from, that you can bounce ideas off of, and you can find out what's working and what's not working in their markets and see if that will work in yours. So there is strength in numbers. The other and last thing is that they know that there's marketing, of course, but they've done their research. They've done it, and that's what you're actually buying into. So in a franchise situation, you spend a royalty fee, and that royalty fee on a monthly basis is usually a percentage of your sales. That goes into to support that corporate office and the marketing and the market research and the operations. And they're the ones that are getting you the good deals with Coca-Cola or with Pepsi-Cola. They're the ones that are getting you the good deals on the breads and the ovens and that sort of thing. I'm still thinking Subway. So there is a lot of benefits to buying into a franchise, and there are so many kinds of franchises. If you go to one of the links in the Franchise 500s or the International Franchise Association, you'll see that there is a franchise for just about anything you want to do. If you want to clean houses, if you want to detail cars, if you want to wash windows, you name it, there's a franchise out there for you. So part of the things about some of the pros of franchise is that there's a way of doing business, right? But one of the cons is that you don't get to change that way of doing business. So you lose some control of how your business is run. If you wanted to put more lettuce on your sandwich, you would be fighting an uphill battle because that is something that they regulate, or the customer pays more. So there's a lot of control. If you're thinking about McDonald's, they've got a system that works, and they want their McDonald's burgers to taste the same, whether it's in Dubuque or Florence, Italy, or New York City. They want it to be exactly the same, and that's one of the things that's for the customer that makes it a strong franchise, is that consistency. There is a lot of startup costs when it comes to franchise, depending on the franchise, of course, but there is some startup costs. There is buying into the franchise. There's a franchise fee from anywhere from $10,000 to a couple $1,000,000, depending on the franchise. Uh, there is competition. One of the things about franchises, and it all depends on the different franchises, but you'll see, let's just say Subway in maybe 4 blocks from each other, and so there's a lot of competition with even within your same franchise. You might have a Subway on the corner of Mission and Washington, but or if those even go together. Um, Corner of Mission, and there's one straight down the way on Paseo, and you can't regulate that depending on the franchise. So McDonald's, for example, will say, no, you can't have a McDonald's within a certain miles of each restaurant, so that they regulate the customer base. Others like Subway don't have that. It depends. You have to look that up. There is sometimes problems elsewhere in the franchise. So, for instance, if there's an E. coli problem in a Jack in the Box in Seattle, that hurts your brand, even in California. And they get national attention. And it's like, I'm not sure about this Jack in the Box here. But just because it's the Jack in the Box up in Seattle doesn't mean it's not affecting you. There are ongoing fees with franchises. You pay that royalty fee on a monthly basis. You pay a marketing fee on a monthly basis, all dependent upon your sales. And the franchisor is the first one to be paid after your rent and after those other things. They want and they keep track of it. They know exactly how much you've sold and how much you owe them. So they keep track of that on an hourly basis at sometimes. With that lack of control also comes inflexibility. You can't change things without having permission from the franchisor. You can't do a lot of things without having their permission, because it affects their brand, the brand that they've invested so much in, and it affects the guy down the street that's doing the same business, or the guy, like you said, in Dubuque that's doing the same business. So it takes a lot. For instance, the McRib sandwich at McDonald's was an idea coming out of a franchisee, but it took years to develop. So you never know. It could happen, but there's a lot of rules and regulations that you have to go through. So if you don't want to own a franchise, you don't want those rules and regulations, you could buy an existing business. You could buy the Pizza Hut down the road. There's an existing, the pros of doing that is that there is an existing history. There is an existing customer base. Hopefully it's a good one. There is an existing cash flow system that you know and that you can track, and that as you're going through the purchasing decision that you can look at, you can examine to make sure that you can understand why they want to sell their business. And there's an existing business, there is a lot less time that you need to start up. By franchising, you're starting from the beginning, unless you're buying an existing franchise, which is kind of the same of what we're talking about right now. But if you are buying a franchise or buying into a franchise, you're going to have the whole build-up of the store and all of the existing the startup time that the franchisor wants you to go through, all the training and that sort of thing. If you're buying an existing business, that goes down to a lot less, because that small business owner is going to do the training of yours, and you can simply put up a sign that says under new management, and there you go. And if it's a good business, because you have existing suppliers and you have existing customer base, you have an existing cash flow that a history that you can look at and learn from, there is less likely to fail. You can get financing easier from an existing business, so that a bank can look at that, what has happened in the past and can see that it is a good, solid business. Some of those cons is that how you determine what the purchasing price is, and if there is this goodwill of the name. Are you spending a little bit extra money because the name is so good in the neighborhood, that there is a reputation for that company and for that business, that they can increase the price simply because it's a popular place to go? Your business plan might not match their business plan. And so it may be that the way that you want to go, you have to kind of turn a corner and figure out what they've done and how you can adapt your business plan to what they've already done, because they're got that business going on one trajectory and you are now needing to change that. The idea of having a custom existing customer base, and as I said, hopefully it's a good one. If it isn't, then you have to live with that and have to deal with it. And you have to deal with their existing stakeholders, meaning you have to deal with the landlord and the suppliers and those types of things in order to, when you're taking over that business, you need to take over all of those stakeholders as well. Sometimes there's more working capital and cash flow required than, for instance, starting your own from the ground up. And last but not least, you need to honor contracts until they are, even if you think they're a bad contract, you have to honor them until they are, until they expire or you're able to get a new contract. So that could be with the, restaurant, with the restaurant food, with your vegetable supplier, or if you're a hair salon, with some of the chemicals that you're buying, that sort of thing. When you are buying an existing business, there's certain things that you want to ask. This is, again, not exhaustive, but you kind of want to know why they want to sell. Are they selling because they're retiring? Are they selling because they have health issues? Are they retiring? Are they selling it because it is they've run it into the ground? You want to ask those questions and know exactly why that company is for sale, because then you'll know what you're up against. And I would go out and ask customers, ask suppliers what they think of it. You can do a SWOT analysis of an existing business and know what your strengths and weaknesses are, and what those opportunities are, what the threats are. And if the customers say the place was grimy and dirty and I saw cockroaches in the bathroom, then I don't know. You might not, it could be, you know what, at least you know what you're up against. An existing business has competition. You want to know who it is, what it is, how much they charge, what your point of difference is, and that sort of thing. And then there's a checklist here that you want to also take advantage of. Have an accountant and other professionals go through the papers, go through the financial statements and any other property leases, documents, contracts, and things, and see what you're getting into. Lastly, there are a bunch of links at the bottom of in the module on Canvas, and so